How to quantum leap and instantly manifest your breakthrough in 90 days or less, because you are ready for it and you absolutely deserve to have things come to you in a more fast and effortless way. So whether you are looking to land your dream job in 90 days, start that business, grow that business, and have an increased life expansion in 90 days or even less, this video is for you, and we're gonna start right now. So one very interesting question that I asked myself recently, after years of wanting to learn how to have that quantum jump and do surreal things with my life, where it's not like very based on the physical plane, but you can kind of get your mental state correct and have miracles enter your life. I was always interested in that kind of thing. But then you have to ask yourself, what is the point of manifesting? And the answer is really simple, actually. And are you ready for it? It's to get a yes from life. A yes from life. Because let's just say, if you are looking to close that business deal, ultimately, what you're trying to get from your investor, your client, and your stakeholders is a yes. When you go to a job interview, and no matter which phase you go through, assessment centers, panel interviews, partner interviews, the people behind those desks are just humans. And what you're looking to get from them is a yes. No matter where you go or what you do, the things that make you feel chosen, appreciated, and seen and respected is a yes. It's the opposite of rejection. So therefore, when we do things like robotic affirmations on repeat, and we research techniques on how to manifest, when we visualize, when we do SATs, when we do deep hypnosis, when we do mantras, Ho'oponopono, when we do things like, I don't know, like drinking matcha and doing rituals and stuff like that, when you go to spiritual retreats, when you light up candles, when you do tarot readings, when you do grateful journaling, when you do scripting, when you even do like really funny methods, but some of them work, like when people like put their notes under their pillows so that they can manifest money and stuff like that. Ultimately, the point of this whole technique is for you to get a yes from life. And the thing is, I really remember this phrase, I think it's by Neville Goddard, where life is consciousness objectified. So therefore, everything has to be an internal yes before it can be external yes. But the thing is, it's like we're not living the rest of our lives in our imagination only. Eventually, we want those imaginations to solidify into our physical reality, so we can touch it, so we can hug the person that we love, so we can transact the money to get that bikini that I've always wanted, or to transact the money to get the things that you want. Ultimately, you want the things that exist in your mental plane and spiritual plane to also land in the 3D. So therefore, when we go about it in a state where we put the techniques above us and we only focus diligently on doing things right the way that I used to, it's like you can repeat I love myself 1,000 times, but if you don't create physical evidences where you make self-honoring decisions, where you're willing to react to old triggers the different way and you don't prove to yourself that you are who you say you are. Manifestation, let alone a quantum jump. How is it supposed to work? Because in order for you to quantum leap to a brand new reality, you need to show reality. Show reality who's the boss. And the boss is you. Not robotic affirmations, hypnosis, mantras, or Ho'oponopono rituals, retreats, or your mentors who teach you these things. And they kind of tell you that you've got to seek my advice first before you do these things. And I have the best answers for you. The best answer is you. So therefore, you have to get really clear with yourself that on this journey to your quantum leap, you are going to be the captain steering your own ship. And you will take 100% ownership of your life by choosing to be the version of you who's elevated her consciousness way up here to be the pedestal of your universe. Which then leads me to the second point. Are you ready for it? So ultimately, we know that when it comes to manifestation, it's about uniting your mental, spiritual, and physical plane into one. And I think I was trying to understand this with the book, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace D. Wattles. And for years and years ago, I listened to this book on Audible, and it just really touched me. And he was saying that man cannot be fully rich if he neglects one of these, body, mind, and spirit. So I see uniting your mental, spiritual, and physical kind of like nourishing your mind, the mental, your spirit, your heart, and your body, which is the physical plane. So therefore, when Wallace D. Wattles talks about, yesterday I re-listened to it while I was kind of like in the kitchen, he was saying that getting rich, two men can be in the same suburb, the same area, and they can embark on the same vocation. And one man can get insanely rich while the other stays poor. And he even talks about how, fit people get rich, unfit people get rich, smart people get rich, stupid people get rich. So getting rich is not just about how talented or skilled you are, but it's about doing things in a certain way. And he always repeated that in the book. It's about doing things in a certain way. So when it comes to quantum jumping, I also believe that it's also about getting your mental plane operating a certain way so that it's not about taking physical actions the way that Wallace D. Wattles says in Science of Getting Rich. And even in his preface, he's like, this book is not about knowing the metaphysics and being spiritual before you get rich. It's a scientific way to get rich, and then you can be metaphysical later. But it's interesting because when you do things a certain way, it's like no matter if you're spiritual or not spiritual, either way, what you want is going to land in the physical plane. And that's what I want too. So therefore, we have to get our mental plane correct. Interestingly, when it comes to mental plane, a lot of manifestation teachers on YouTube, they emphasize robotic affirmations. And I don't know why, when I try to do mental diet and stuff, it doesn't work as well. For example, if I want to deadlift 70 kilograms or swim 1,000 meters, and I say to myself, you can swim 1,000 meters, you can swim 1,000 meters, you can swim 1,000 meters, and you can deadlift 70, you can deadlift 70, you can deadlift 70. And you robotically affirm this. But then when you go to the gym, you stay on the treadmill and you don't go lift weights. Or when you go to the swimming center, especially the one that I go to, the ocean water one, you don't get out of the baby pool to go to the adult pool to swim in the fast lane at least. How am I going to believe that I can do 1,000 meters or deadlift 70 if all I do is robotic affirmations? So that's why when it comes to mental plane, it's about understanding how to implement it to your life in a personalized way, in how you operate, in how your subconscious is impressed. So it's interesting because when I thought of the mental plane, I literally thought about the time where, I'll show you. Basically, when you master the mental plane, you're saying that you create the laws of the universe. So therefore, affirmations do work, but they have to be emotionally charged thoughts that loop in a way that is in conjunction with other planes of existence, but not just mental loops, but then the physical kind of doesn't correspond with it. So there's this egoic version of you, and I'll just say this is the old me. And the old me, she thought she was smart, but she was operating in a very literal 3D analytical way. So she sees life through a very, very narrow lens. Everything she's observed, the way that her environment was pretty scarce, even in terms of, like only 10% of people from my school in high school went to the university that I want to go to. So that alone already indicates that, whoa, I grew up in scarcity, because success even is scarce growing up for me. So then I took this mindset that if the chance of getting into a reputable university is so low, then what about the chance of earning high income, above the average income? And even if you share this, at least for me, amongst friend groups and ecosystems, they will shame you for wanting more. So therefore, my egoic self was really guarded, and she protected her old belief like a bodyguard to her old belief. Like, I really protected my old belief. And so this version of you honestly has a fragile mental plane. She's fragile mentally. And it's interesting because if you're fragile mentally, you think that you're strong. So when there comes a time where I took a lot of positive actions, and there was like a time where I went to Dimmicks to read for 6 hours about 5-6 years ago. So I went to Dimmicks Town Hall, and I got a bunch of books with like entrepreneurship, spirituality, Joy Dispenza's Your Placebo kind of book. And I just had the time of my life. I spent 6 hours just delving myself into the information. And so I felt phenomenal. I felt phenomenal reading for 6 hours straight at that place. I drink some cappuccino and I just start visualizing my future, and I felt so motivated. And at that time I was pursuing interview coaching, but I think what I wanted more was to create careers accelerator events, and I wanted to meet these people and grow my LinkedIn following kind of thing at the time. And I was also reading to just trying to gain perspective from other people. And I remember reading this book like Your Pathway to Influence. It's by an Australian author, but it was so interesting about community building and how to grow a cult-like community. So that really gave me perspective on marketing. So I felt phenomenal right here. But interestingly, when your mental atmosphere is fragile the way that I was, you would start sharing your wins, if not to your old friend, then to people that position themselves as mentors to you. So if you are like me, who went through about life in a fragile way, you would yeah, but you need to find mentors. So I did that. So I found people who I thought could be my mentor, but actually they weren't. They were just normal people who had perspective in life, but they weren't great mentors. So I share this to my mentor, i.e. seeking external validation, that I read at Dimmicks for 6 hours, but I wasn't making a significant amount of money yet. And this mentor said to me, that reading doesn't make you money. That one line alone, it crushed me. The thing is, when we don't conquer our mental plane, we start to have other people make the laws of our life. So when somebody says they implant this subconscious belief, reading doesn't make you money. He says to me, Patty, why don't you just lower your ego and go and get, a job like in a cafe, selling coffee kind of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that advice. but it was a direct insult to what I was doing because I was also putting a lot of work towards the things I want to do. But he was like, Patty, why don't you just save up and just like go and get a job and just, go and pay rent and bills first before you go and read, because reading doesn't make you money, but getting a job makes you money. And that really pissed me off at the time, because it's not about that the advice is logically correct, but it made me feel so insulted that all this inner work that I was doing, it gets literally shut down by people that you assign authority to, which is even worse than sharing it to a friend who is skeptical towards you. The person whose mental plane is not very strong. With that one statement alone, I dipped hard. I was upset at myself, I was frustrated, I was confused, and I lost conviction. And the minute that you start losing conviction and thinking, oh my God, these 6 hours I spent reading about how to build a cult-like following, how this other Australian was building her business and how it grew and what's the behind the process, how I was reading about Joey Dispenza, You Are the Placebo, and how to have an elevated state of emotion ahead of time and all that stuff. And those inner work lead people to making exponential money, and suddenly someone tells you that you are still not powerful. You don't make the laws of the universe. You don't make the laws of your own universe, because I do. I control you. The minute that you get into that state, so then you would then use willpower to try and start again, but no matter what you do, you oscillate hard. Because what eventually happened, that universe is you pushed out, so the universe is universe. Basically, I then had more evidences of the 3D saying the same thing to me. My own family member at the time, no matter what I did, no matter if I did Careers Accelerator event, it was successful. No matter if I tried to compete and I was getting plastic trophies and all this stuff in Toastmasters, the one line that I was told is, what's the point? Or what are you doing it for if it doesn't make you money? What's the point of going to public speaking? What's the point of writing speeches? What's the point of executing your speeches every fortnight? What's the point of becoming area director so I can learn more about people in different areas and learn how to deal with people, learn how to show up and, just see how people operate? What's the point of you embarking on entrepreneurship? What's the point of you doing this? What's the point of you doing that? I just kept getting asked, what are you doing it for if it doesn't make you money? So then, the more the 3D reality kind of says at you, and then you then internalize it by feeling frustrated and upset, which lowers your vibration. The more this mental atmosphere of yours, now you're repeating into your subconscious, I don't make money no matter what I do, which was exactly me. No matter what I do, it doesn't make me money. So then no matter what I did the next few years, it just didn't make me money. Because it was like a spell that was cast on me. That no matter if I turn to authority figure, like my own family member or some outside authority figure, all they ever say is it doesn't make you money. So then what are you doing it for? And that's then it destroys your mental atmosphere. So now you're unconsciously affirming to yourself, I can't make money. Money is hard to come. There are so many obstacles before making money. My marketing has to be perfect before I make big money. I have to find the right people before I make money. I have to grow this many followings to make money. And then it's just a loop, a mental affirmation that you are not worthy of the things that you want. And the things that you want, that you think you have to use money to buy, and you just destroy your own conviction and your ability to quantum leap. Whereas, finally, the version of me who was, kind of resolved this past and moved on from people that are just not it. This version, she takes the elevator up, her consciousness elevator up, to do things a certain way, like Wallace D. Wallace says. And that certain way is being in the end state. So no matter if that is $100,000 a Google job, a 7-figure business, where that is a sales promotion, and even things like the best amazing romantic relationship, which we're going to focus more on the career side of things. But basically, her mental plane is already at the end. She's mentally there. So now her action is taken from a place of self-ownership. Because the manifestation definition for me is that it's about creating such a powerful internal shift to the point where your 3D reality has zero authority over you. Zero authority over you. So then she might take very, very small incremental steps because she's stable within herself. So again, even though on the physical plane, this looks like very little movement, but mentally, she's there. So naturally, she's patient. So interestingly, this version of me can still do the same thing. I still read. I still go to places to read. I love it. Like, I like the atmosphere of reading. Like touching the books and just sitting down, have my own time to read. But after she does that, she reads, she listens to audibles, she meditates, she does all these beautiful things for her life. You know what she does? She keeps it to herself. Unless there's somebody that she can share it to and it elevates her growth, if there's nobody in her ecosystem at the time who can really support her growth the way that she needs it, she keeps it to herself. So therefore her mental atmosphere will look something like, this. I felt phenomenal. Therefore, reading 6 hours is my pathway to riches, literally. So there's none of these, reading doesn't make you money. It doesn't make you money. You got to do this and that. No, you keep the things that you do for yourself, so that because your physical environment is clean to an extent, it's easier for your mental atmosphere to be clean. And so because you feel empowered, even if you dip a bit from a little bit of burning out or some negativity gets into your system, the way you react is not the same. So you may be like, what the hell, man, just, But you would be like, whatever. None of my business. Doesn't apply to me. Whatever they say doesn't apply to me. And then you're able to bounce back faster. So now your mental atmosphere is quite clean and self-empowering. And you keep going and going until on day 45, you start hitting your exponential point. Because the energy that you've compounded from here to here, you've compounded a bunch of self-empowering thoughts. And when let's just say that the first 45 days, all you feed into your system from yourself is that reading makes me phenomenal. Reading makes me feel phenomenal. I love reading. Reading makes me feel rich. I felt extremely rich when I was reading about like Australian entrepreneurs who grew her matcha brand in Melbourne or something like that, like years ago. Or I was reading about Joy Dispenza and having optimism towards my future when I knew that you are the placebo. And when I read it, when I took in that information, I absorbed the vibration, I felt rich. I felt like I was making money at that time. And so months later, I ended up succeeding at the Careers Accelerator event. I made some money as well. And there were some things that manifest like insanely fast from the time that I was reading 6 hours a day, because I didn't know that the act of just flipping the pages and being into it full on was me visualizing. I didn't know I was doing it automatically. So therefore, from day 0 to day 45, you're already winning halfway because your mental atmosphere is filled with your law. You create the law of your universe, and those are done through self-empowering thoughts. So then these self-empowering thoughts, they're not only just thoughts, they are emotionally charged thoughts. And the thing is, once your thoughts are really emotionally charged, whereas this one is negative life force, negatively charged thoughts, where like, but I don't make money from reading. But reading doesn't make me money right now. Maybe I should just like disempower myself and do as other people say. That's disrespectful thought towards your ability and stuff. Whereas this one, you listen to yourself. You know what you need. you know where you're going, you are certain with yourself. So your self-empowering thoughts become a positive life force that you feel into your identity and your system, so that your field emanates positivity, which then draws in opportunities and people who want to invest in you later. And that's how you get the mental plane correct. Very, very important. We're going to move on to the second part now. Let's go. The next thing we're going to be looking at in terms of quantum jumping, now that we know how to prime our mind properly to always nourish our garden with beautiful thoughts. I think it was in Louise Hay's book, something like You Can Heal Your Life, where she was talking about how your mind is like a garden and negative thoughts with negative emotional charge is like putting weeds in your garden. But you want to give your garden beautiful flowers and plant beautiful like roses like that. And you want to make sure that after you have the seed, we have to get our beautiful spirit aligned so that when it comes to the physical plane, everything is aligned and easy. So therefore, I wanted to talk about this thing that I read from, I believe his name is Frederick Dodson, The Parallel Universes of Self. And I first listened to this like in depth in 2012 when I was 18 and I was about to go into university and I wanted to understand about quantum mechanics and stuff like that. And I remember listening on the train and just like being half asleep. And he was talking about the 5 levels of your identity, where level 1 is, you know, the physical plane, like your action, and it goes all the way to level 2, 3, 4, 5, and level 5 is your core belief. So I want to talk about the spiritual plane in terms of referencing The Parallel Universe of Self by Frederick Dodson. I think that's the way his name is pronounced. And interestingly, when other creators talk about the spiritual plane, they talk about your connection to infinite intelligence. And the one quote that they really talk about is let go and let God, which I'm not sure if I found this quote in Eckhart Tolle's book, but I remembered how I would literally affirm things like I'm letting go and letting God while I was swimming at icebergs 4 years ago, and it was cold, it was freezing, my techniques were not right, my strokes were really short, but I was trying to do like 2,000 meters eventually, from not being able to swim in the baby pool to doing 2,000 meters in 10 months. And I couldn't swim my whole life before that. So I would then, every time it gets rough and it gets a bit too cold and I'm getting cold shock and I don't know how to regulate myself, in the water, I would literally tell myself I'm letting go and letting God. And when my subconscious accepts this while I'm in the water, suddenly my body figured out how to handle the cold. It figured out the strokes, it figured out the breathing patterns, and I just went through this no mind mode. And then I think some people were talking about how, you know, you are the tree and the tree is you and you are everything and everything is you kind of thing. I had that experience when I was swimming. So I felt like I am the ocean water and the ocean water is me and we are one. And then I started having so much more power in my strokes that eventually led me to reaching 2,000 meters. So this is how you connect to the spiritual plane, is that you get out of your own way. So what this means is that you get your lower I out of the own way and you connect to your capital I, which is your infinite intelligence or the source. So coming back to the parallel universe of self, basically there's a 3D plane right here. And then there's the 4D. And then there's the 5D. So we're just gonna do this and this and this. Now, basically, this concept was really, really hard for me to grasp as a teenager, and even in my early 20s, where there's infinite versions of you. I just totally don't understand what this means. I was like, how's that possible? This is me, I'm just only me. But I tried to really surrender to the knowledge and just like, get out of the way, Patty, and just accept there's infinite versions of you. So you may know that there are infinite versions of you. I think I remembered watching Interstellar when I was in 2013, when I was in first year uni. And towards the end, they even showed us this visual of like infinite possibilities, where like the guy was in the room, and it's like a library, and there's like these bookshelves, and he's accessing different timelines and stuff like that. And I was like, oh, that's what they mean by infinite versions of you. So that was really interesting. But basically, there's like a broke version of you, and then there's a rich version of you. And then there's this like wholesome version of you. There's just infinite possibilities. And let's just say that you want to manifest not just money, but you want the whole architect of life that feels nourishing to your soul. So I do have tangible dollar figures in my bank account, so that when I go and I say I want a burger, I can transact for the burger. That's tangible money. But I also want a thriving health, and I want beautiful relationships. I want my partner and me to have a thriving relationship where we push each other to be the best. You know, we're supportive of each other's goals and ambitions. And my friends are absolutely lovely. They're unconditional. They don't expect anything from me, but they just push me to be my best and have a happy life instead of giving me a lot of unsolicited advice. So I didn't know that I felt familiar with always, you know, broken, angry, grumpy, this broke, grumpy, angry version of me. I was very familiar with this version of me. And how we always access this version is that we feel familiar, you know, thinking the same ways, feeling the same way. So therefore, we're constantly pulling this version of you down. But when you access this parallel reality, what you want to do is you want to pull this rich version of you down to the 3D plane. And how you do this is that your decisions, your habit, your thought, especially emotionally charged thoughts, your belief, your emotion, your action, your expectation, your focus. All of these are congruent to the version of you who's rich. Every one of these, they're in alignment to this version of you. A lot of us play reality, go about things backwards the way that I used to. When I went to DMX, I read for 6 hours. Okay, that was me pulling down the rich version of me already for 6 hours. But then the remaining hours, I took myself out of that reality. I went to tell my mentor that I did this, or things like that. And then I got skepticism. And the minute that I descend to frustration, I'm now pulling down this broke version of me again. So the key is to not only pull down this version of you once, is to do it so many times that it becomes normal for you, for this 3D version of you to merge. So you guys want to merge into the physical plane. But what happens is that a lot of us, we do this unconsciously by having crappy thoughts, garbage belief, garbage thoughts based on our observation and trauma. And we internalize people's skepticism to the point where we just feel like we're not in control of our fate and our destiny. So we, on a normal basis, pull down our broke, hangry, grumpy, resentful, frustrated, agitated version of us into the physical plane on a daily basis, the way that I did for decades, which builds muscle memory. So then you get really, really good at pulling down this version of you, pulling down the angry version of you, pulling down the grumpy version of you. The key is not do that. The key is to let these versions exist, but you don't put your attention on that version. So basically, let's just say that we're gonna choose this rich version of us. The thing is, we think that it's enough to do this once. Because I know that people say if you charge your subconscious mind very powerfully just once, your life can change. Absolutely, but if you have the opportunity to do it over and over and over and over again, so powerful and repetitively, why not do the combo? I get it, if you can do it once, go for it. But I just like things to be like consistent, and if I work out, just because I can lift once doesn't mean I can't do it again. Just because I can already reach 1,000 meters, why do I have to stop swimming 1,000 meters? So I prefer that you powerfully charge your subconscious with the vivid experience of receiving the pay that you want, the treatment that you want, the respect that you want, the congratulations, the acknowledgement that you want. Absolutely. You get into the alpha brainwave state and you go into stillness, absolutely. And then you impress your subconscious in a relaxed state, or even if you go into theta, like when you're very, very half deep asleep, and you really flood that vivid experience of receiving love, receiving recognition, approval, unconditional approval kind of thing that you've always wanted in the 3D. And because the subconscious basically is your emotions. When your subconscious, your prompter, remembers these emotions and they're more powerful and they override your trauma eventually, it will then influence the physical version of you to act in a way that is absolutely congruent, like decisions and habits and everything in the physical plane will be in alignment. But the thing is, if we have 90 days to do this, and you've done it once on night 1, cool. But what about from day 1 to day 90? What are you going to do? Are you going to go back and access the broke version of you here? Or are you going to make sure that on night 2, you also continue pulling her down? Night 3, you continue pulling her down. 4, 5, 6, all the way to day 90. You get into the alpha brainwave state to impress your subconscious in a half awake world. But in your fully awoken world, in the day-to-day life, you then choose to observe your thoughts, if you ever have crappy emotionally charged thoughts. And you start to be aware of your focus. If you ever focus too much on negativity and skepticism, and you start to expect the best for yourself. You start to take action that is, you think about, you sit for it. Is this the right action that is in alignment with this version of me who you keep pulling her down every night? Keep pulling her down, 4, 5, all the way to day 90. Keep pulling her down so you feel familiar with just this version of you. Is your belief congruent now? If it's not, let's get into a relaxed state again and do it again if it's not powerful enough for that session. Is your emotion, are you relaxed? Are you more secure? Do you feel more certain? And most importantly, do you feel conviction? The thing is, you can still feel this just in one go, but if you have 90 goes to do it, why not do it for 90 times? Because 90 times, you're solidifying your new baseline. 90 times, you're building that muscle memory. So therefore, you want to maintain your fitness. Put in the reps if you want. So some people say you don't have to put in the reps. I'm just saying you don't have to, but if you can, why not? The more reps you put in, the more familiar it feels to be this rich version of you. And that's how you want to connect to your infinite intelligence on a consistent basis, intentionally, so that when you connect to her on Monday, by the next Monday, you're still connected to her. Not I connect to her on Monday, then by Sunday, it's like, nah, like I haven't been consistent, so she's not here on Sunday. We want her to be here every day of our life for 365 days a year, and for the next 365 days, and the next 365 days. Okay? So let's move on to the physical. The last thing that we have to do, and I'm emphasizing, yes, you have to take action, but then you have to take aligned action. And the thing with spiritual coaches is that people talk about aligned action and just like surrender, and he'll come to you, and just like meditate, he'll come to you. I mean, when I wanted to build a bikini board and I wanted to deadlift 70 at the time, and I wanted to swim like 2,000 meters, like sitting on the couch is not going to help me swim 2,000 meters. I had to like jump into the water and experience the seaweed tugging at me and overcome people overtaking me and telling me to go to the slow lane and get thrown around by the giant swells at the time, to learn how to conquer my mind and body, to be able to reach the kind of goal that felt insane to my old self at the time. And even after that, I couldn't really sustain 2,000 on a regular basis. And to even sustain 1,000 meters, I can't just like meditate and be like, I swim 1,000 meters, I can swim 1,000 meters, I can swim 1,000 meters. But then you don't go to the pool to jump into the cold plunge, the cold pool, to train your body to calibrate the level where you can consistently swim 1,000 meters on 4 or 5 a.m. wake up. Nowadays it's 6 a.m. wake up. So that's why I don't understand people that say like, you can just do nothing and it will come to you. Basically, the interpretation that you want to go at this, it's kind of true that you can do less, but if you don't work out, are the abs gonna come? So basically, oops, oh, the line's not straight. Basically, in order for you to materialize tangible evidences of your life changing, you need to create tangible evidences for yourself to observe. So basically, you spend a majority of your life observing like crappy things, crappy feedbacks, crappy inputs, crappy advices, and you observe that you are powerless over the situation. The minute someone with authority tells you, but your marketing is weird. Yeah, but you shouldn't read 6 hours a day. Yeah, but you should just like go and work this job instead of reading. Yeah, but you should just like do this and do that with your life. By then, even just 6 months of repetitive powerlessness, you're already taking the 3D senses that you are powerless. So that also gets more imprinted into your subconscious, that you fall asleep each night reviewing your day as it is, and you see life as it is instead of revising it. You see that, oh, tonight again, somebody advised me the wrong things again. Today, somebody criticized me again. Today, my bank account is draining again. Today, my co-worker and my boss is crappy again. So when you observe this in the physical reality, over time, you feel disempowered. So therefore, when it comes to physical action, you want to now make sure that your actions are absolutely empowering you to the max. But the thing is, there's going to be you and the 3D reality. So the 3D reality is going to be this red line, but you and your consciousness, the new you, is going to be this blue line. Basically, you have went into the 5D and you've taken the elevator up in your consciousness, and you're completely aligned. Your belief, your actions, your thoughts, your expectation, focus, attention, what else? Your self-talk, all those things, they are absolutely aligned to the end state. So then your journey, at least for me, I felt like a lot of my 90 days quantum jump internally was always massive last year. So I would start off here and I would take incremental builds. Sometimes I'd dip and I'll come back, and then dip, come back. But because I wasn't really, I didn't really surround myself with people who can give me feedback, these dips didn't really last too long. So I was able to come back up really quick. But then because your energy has compounded the right way, you start having an exponential point around this mark, maybe day 60. You start experiencing a quantum jump in the internal shift. That's what I felt last year. And it's the same when I do working out, or I do like things like with a lot of reps. The first few times it's kind of like, it takes a bit of time, but then when you compound the action, the exponential growth happens, especially with swimming as well, like building your muscles. So interestingly, even though internally your trajectory looks like this on the mental and spiritual plane. But because you may have dwelled in your trauma and you've observed too many times of people disempowering you, so you have a lot of baggage, pretty much, left in your field that you may not be aware of, and it has to get pushed out. Because reality is consciousness objectifying. What goes on within is reflected without. And eventually, if those things that you observe and you took in within is too powerful, it somehow has to be reflected. So then the 3D gives you major delay. So it might give you some sort of like, the old frequency gives you a beginner's luck. This is called false hope, by the way. So it kind of like tricks you that because you're winning, it will take you to the highs of the highs for you to experience the peak. But if reality can bring you to a high, it will swing you back to a low with no mercy. So therefore, it's gonna start swinging you back low so that you can also swing. And then it's gonna start giving you a bunch of mess and no movement and plateaus. And basically just like maybe because you are very stabilized, it then starts to merge with you. Starts to merge with you on your day 90. So let's just say that your exponential point happens already. You've already solidified this state for a while, and this is day 90. And you're here at the end. What happens is that perhaps because you're so powerful, it starts to merge with you towards the end. And that is the whole point of quantum jumping, is that your 3D starts to merge with you at the end. So hypothetically, let's just say that that's what happened to me each time I had a goal. I would then have the career accelerators event successfully within 2 to 3 months. From the time I thought about it, I would launch that YouTube channel successfully in 2 to 3 months. Things would come into my life at the time within 2 to 3 months because my emotional charge towards it was quite powerful. So therefore, when it comes to this point, like, you know, this is called the end state. But what's going to happen is that along this journey of wonkiness, the 3D will make you try to like influence you to stay in the dips as long as you can. And the dips are things like frustration, discouragement, and disappointment. But the key for you is to dwell in this low point for as least time as possible, with as least emotional charge as possible, and keep fueling yourself with positive life force. Now, this, let's just say that, so the turn started at this point, right? Where you started merging. Let's just say from this point, from day 0 to day 80, you have a mixture of wins and a mixture of loss. And in the last 10 days, reality merges with you and it shoots through the roof, or even sooner. The thing is that this is called the bridge of incidents. And in the manifestation, we're like, one of my favorite creators is Athena Ravens. I love her. Like, it's just, because I feel like I have a lot of masculine like energy when I explain things. It's just when I listen to Athena, I feel so peaceful. And she breaks down case studies in a very interesting way. And I listen to them just to understand humans more and stuff like that. And she talks about the bridge of incidents, where it's not your responsibility to micromanage the bridge of incidents. The bridge of incidents are these wonkiness that you see here. Wonkiness on an 80 days. So if, let's just say, by day 70, you start to get really like discouraged and down because based on a 3D reality, based on a bridge, you're micromanaging. But you don't understand that some of the dips some of the weirdness that is happening is pretty much a launching pad for you to literally merge with the end state. So let's just say that you are inspired to read. But then when you read, nothing changes. But internally, you feel motivated now to attend this place or this workshop. And then suddenly, because you put in a lot of self-love and you read a lot and stuff like that, at least for me, I was gifted a free access to this group coaching, and it was pretty pricey that I can't afford. And I was very lucky that I got gifted it because I was picked for a live demo. Man, that was a huge win for me. But you know what happened afterwards? You know, I still get a lot of like opposites and triggers, like the old pendulum trying to swing me back. The thing is, if we focus too much on the bridge of incidents and micromanage that, yeah, but after I attend this and this, I have to close the sales. I have to make the money. That's where you let your lower eye get in the way, interfere, which is your ego. So what you have to do is then you keep filling your positive life force to do more things that nourishes your soul. You might work out. You might react differently. You might not, just like to move on and don't care about no movement. And when you then neutralize negative force, you will have inspiration to, okay, I'm going to film this video now. Now I'm going to film my YouTube video, which I did. And I'm going to get a whiteboard and talk for like 50 minutes to an hour, one take, instead of doing it the old way where I used to do one take as well, but it was like ranting and free flow. Instead, this time I'm writing out things ahead of time. And I'm just like spending a lot of time thinking about what to write and stuff like that, so that I can use what I've written to pretty much explain to you here. So it's really organized knowledge this time. So you might have an idea to like, I really want to organize my knowledge very well this time. I don't want to free flow anymore. I don't want to be a random creator anymore. I want to be a creator who is the real deal. So you embark on that. But then what happens is that you get no movement, like subscribers not going up, views not going up, people don't give a crap kind of thing at the beginning. But because you don't mess with the bridge of incidences, that the reason why there's no subscribers on the day whatever is because it's giving you space to keep brainstorming in silence first, to not get distracted. The reason why there's opposite events that are still thrown at you is so that you become more resilient in the process. You never know. But as long as you assume, law of assumption, that every single dip in the bridge of incidents is working for your highest good, it's aligning you to the end state for your 3D to merge. Eventually, with this positive assumption alone, it has to merge. It has to merge. Because what you're doing when you assume the best is that you are killing off the resistance. You are killing off the resistance. And when there's no more of that, you are going to prosper and quantum leap in as soon as 90 days or probably less. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and again, I'll be opening up group coaching. There'll be a waitlist down below, and my purpose is to help high-achieving women reach their tipping points in 8 to 12 weeks by shattering their inner world ceiling and raising it. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video again, and see you soon.